Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome to Bagh School. Dear students, we are going to start today's lesson number 9. In this lesson, we will going to discuss the hazards of electricity. While we are using electricity, we must be very conscious and careful because it's a very dangerous if we become careless while using electricity. So, we will discuss the few hazards of electricity, and in this we will starting from the hazards of electricity, which are commonly there are four hazards. Number one is damaged insulation. When the cables are damaged and we don't care about that, then it can be very dangerous, short circuiting or electric shocks, etc. And the second hazard is overheating of electrical devices. When the electrical devices are being used for a long time and they are producing heat, then it may be overheated and it uh, get fire, or it, you see, the electrical appliance may burn, or there may be electric shock. Similarly, the third hazard, which is very common while we are using electricity, that we become, you see, careless. Our wet hand, uh, we just touch the electrical appliances and we get electric shock. Or when we are using the some metal wires and just putting the wire into the direct shoes. So these electrical hazards, we must be conscious about them. So, how we can use safe electricity by knowing these electrical hazards. So the electrical hazard, the first electrical hazard I just said, is a damaged insulation. You can see in the picture that the wires are damaged due to some reasons, and whenever there is you see, you are going to touch them, because the conductor is already exposed. So when you touch them, you can get electric shock. So the wires in each cable are insulated from one another, and the whole cable has more protective insulation around the outside. If this insulation is damaged, there is a chance that the user will touch the bare wire and get an electric shock. There is also a chance that current will flow between two wires. So it may be short circuiting, or from one bare wire and any piece of metal, it comes in contact with the wire. So we must be very conscious while using these wires. Rather, we must properly insulate them from one another. This is a very dangerous part of the using electricity. Always we should use good quality wires and properly insulated. Sometime when we join two pieces of wire and we keep them, you see, we do not insulate them. The joint is not properly insulated. So whenever we touch them by chance, we can get electric shock. Okay. So as we are discussing the common hazards of electricity at homes, so another common electricity hazard is overheating. As I discussed already, that sometimes uh, excessive current flows in the wires produce a large amount of heat. uh, they will the appliances will heat up, and the insulation may melt, causing it to emit poisonous fumes or even catch fire. Thus, it is vital to avoid using appliances that draw too much current from the supply. So, we must be very conscious, and even if we are using appliances, then we should keep uh, observing that the temperature of the appliance, if it is being heated, and if it is overheated, then immediately it should stop working. We cut off the electricity so that the temperature of the appliance becomes normal. So, like in this picture, the motor overheats while running, and its wires are, you see, the wires insulation is damaged. They get short circuiting, and the whole motor is burnt. Okay, so out of these common hazards of electricity, there is another, you see, common hazard of electricity, that is damp conditions. The conditions in which we can get electric shock, like in rainy season, when the rainwater goes into the switches and shoes, or into the walls, or when the floor is wet and we are using electrical appliances, these conditions are called damp conditions. So when using electricity, it is important to avoid damp or wet conditions, because water is an electrical conductor. So if your hands are wet when you touch an electrical appliance, the water may provide a conductive path for current to flow from a live wire through you to earth. That could prove fatal, and you can get an very large electric shock. So we must avoid these kind of situations. Okay, so uh, in case of damp conditions, uh, our dry skin has actually a very high resistance, that is around 100,000 1 kilo ohm or more even. Size of current which flows through a human body depends on the voltage and the electrical resistance of the body. In case of wet skin, the resistance is reduced, and it is it may be very good conductor. So water, especially with sweet, contains salt of good conductibility, make it easier for electricity to pass through it. So you can see in the picture that the maybe the water is coming from the, you see, shoes, and our hands are wet. Whenever we just go inside, try to connect the shoes, we can get electric shock. So we must be conscious while using the electricity in damp conditions. Okay, so another factor which is, you see, which is the hazards of electricity, is the carelessness of using electricity. Sometimes people tend to be very careless when handling electrical cables and appliances, as metal appliances which are not earthed are great danger to people. Low quality electrical sockets can be hazardous to small children, as they may take metal objects and play with these sockets, thus endangering themselves. So, dear students, we should be very conscious and very careful while using electricity. So, use care when plugging and unplugging cords. Stay away from power lines and electrical equipment. Never stick toys or other objects into the electrical outlets. Never go near or touch an outdoor electrical poles or wires that has fallen to the ground. Never swim during storm. As soon as you hear thunders or see lightning, get out of the water. Do not fly kites or remote control toys near power lines. These are few electrical safety tips. Uh, I wish you stay safe while using electricity. Now again, I'm giving you the assignment. Uh, in the previous lesson, I gave you two questions. Now three more questions which are related to the previous lesson. So you need to submit this assignment before the next coming lesson. Thank you very. Uh, this was a very short lesson, but anyway, this is a very important because we are daily using electricity. Thank you very much.